Right, standing by now down in Calgary, Hill and Knowlton Vice President and political strategist, a guy who knows a few things about polls, our friend Stephen Carter. And let me pick up on what the Wild Rose guy there was saying. We all know how that turned out. Well, you know, you were right there running her campaign. You won a majority victory, and the pollsters all said you were going to get creamed. So what do you think about these? What do you think about these numbers out today?
The pollsters one day said we were going to win 83 seats out of the 87. Then the next day they said we'd be lucky if we won 16. So pollsters, they like to move the numbers around. The population in polls behaves very poorly. And I think that to put a poll out now in the middle of 4 by-elections is just irresponsible. Right now, the 20 people who responded from Calgary Elbow, I can assure you, is not statistically representative of Calgary Elbow.
Well, and that's the thing. The two pollsters here, Lethbridge College, to be honest, the first time I've run across this group, and Think HQ, which is sort of an occasional pollster. And the Think HQ one came out, and it's a provincial poll. They drew city samples, 400 and change in each city, but pitched it very much as in it comes in the midst of these by-elections, so you might think they're actually polling riding by riding, but of course they weren't. So things did get sort of muddied a bit. In the end, you get what you pay for, and I know we have paid for polls. We used to use a firm called Abacus Data, and we pay them to do polling. And so you could blame us. But a lot of cases, polls are expensive. Media organizations sort of take what they can get. And I guess you get what you pay for.
Well, you do. And polling right now isn't the way that what polling was 30 years ago. It used to take about 4,000 telephone calls to get 1,000 responses. Now it takes somewhere in the neighborhood of 22,000 telephone calls to get 1,000 responses. The law of large numbers dictates that the 20,000 people who didn't answer the poll have something in common. And that is they don't want to give their opinions to pollsters. They're a much larger sample size. They're the ones who are actually going to be making the difference on election day. This pollster, Think HQ, and I have had a long running battle over the years about what it is that he's actually trying to poll. He consists on throwing in the margin of error on his online samples. Even though that's not the practice, it fogs the result even further. And right now, we don't have an actual, this is not a statistically representative sample size for any of the 4 by-elections. And the media, actually, in fairness to the media, which is something I never am, in fairness to the media, they've actually been very careful to make sure that in all the news reports, it says very clearly that the by-elections are a different animal. I just wish that we didn't have this crack-like addiction to media running whatever poll that we can get. Any poll that we run is something that happened in the past, and it's not actually a prediction of something that's going to happen in the future. And
I agree completely with that. But certainly, I mean, this show, we are built on horse races. We will take polls, but we'll do it in the form where we want to look at trends, or better yet, I mean, I always, especially for horse race polls, there's a who are you going to vote for, but then I want to know about your leader. I want to know going right direction, wrong direction, some right direction, wrong direction, some other things that will help me sort of interpret what the campaigns are doing, which comes back, and this is where I think your insight might help here. Obviously, I'm assuming, obviously, back there in 2012, that the campaign you were running was paying for some polls. I know in the BC campaign, which public pollsters also got wrong, the campaigners, they were paying for polls, but they were polling for different things and in different areas than we were. What were you doing that sort of gave you confidence going into E-Day in the last general election?
We have to go beyond the top line question. Who are you going to vote for if the vote were held today is a hypothetical question. It doesn't nearly get to the substance of the matter. We test for leaners. We test for messages. We test how strong people are. Are they sticky or are they slippery? So sticky, slippery. When we ran Nenchi's campaign, Rick McIver's votes wouldn't move for love nor money. But Barb Higgins' votes were available to us. We could target those votes, and that's what we did. We went after those votes and went and get them. The Wild Rose, people weren't voting for the Wild Rose. They were voting against the Progressive Conservatives. So our message had to shift from, vote for us for all these reasons to vote against them because they're not ready to form government. There are many things underneath the top line question that professional political operatives look for, but for some reason the media keeps skipping over. What's the next question on the poll? That's what I want to know, and that's what I want to understand about the Think HQ poll.
And this is, again, I'm going to give a plug for our little group here because we're the professional campaign coverage team. We've done Nova Scotia, Alberta, BC. And again, I'll just use New Brunswick, for example. here's a party, the Liberals, where presumably their own internal polls are saying they were in the lead, but their campaign narrative switched halfway through. We could spot it. We know why these things happened, because they were seeing a New Democrats eat into the numbers and they started targeting them. So similarly, I'm assuming, did you see a switch in the last Alberta campaign, something in the middle of the campaign? Because I noticed a different narrative and a different way you were putting the leader out. Alison Redford was doing some different itinerary about with a week, 2 weeks to go.
10 days left. It was the 10-day mark. We were able to get some traction on a specific issue around the Alan Hunsberger blog. And at that point, we started to change everything. And the Wild Rose, we expected them to behave in one very predictable fashion, and instead they behaved kind of contrary to that, which fed into our narrative. So when a party, the actions of the party are far more telling than the actual polling is going to tell you.
Let me just sorry. I just want to, because I just don't have too much time, and I want to get your thoughts on this one, because I'm in Ottawa, you're right there in Alberta. And that is this: anybody looking at these polls which says in Edmonton things are tight, do you really think Stephen Mandel is in for any kind of fight in Edmonton-Whitemud? I think if there's any of these 4 by-elections, that's the one that's going to be a landslide for Mandel.
I'm not sure it's going to be a landslide. I think the NDP will have a very strong and motivated vote. There's not a Wild Roser in that riding, all due respect to the Wild Rose. The Wild Rose is doing exceptionally well in Calgary West. Calgary Foothills, again, it'll be Prentice, but it'll be closer than people think. And I'm still...
You're rooting for Alberta Party and win Elbow.
You know what? Calgary Elbow is going to be really close, and you can see it again in people's behavior. We see the NDP, the Liberals, and the Progressive Conservative Party all attacking the Alberta Party. In fact, Gordon Dirks was out door knocking just the other day, telling everybody who had an Alberta Party sign, if you vote for the Alberta Party, you're electing the Wild Rose. What he doesn't know is that that's where the vote comes from. Right now, it's going to be the Wild Rose, or it's going to be the Alberta Party in Calgary Elbow.
Stephen Carter joining us from Calgary tonight. Stephen, always a pleasure to chat.
Thanks so much.
All right.